Good morning and welcome to my channel. And today I just want to give a little description of when I talk about certain things that you understand that we are on the same page of what I'm trying to talk about. So many people today, when you talk about things like gnosis or gnostic and everything, they go a little crazy into the teachings of certain groups back around 2,000 years ago, some earlier, some later. And you're judged upon the word itself. And I don't have a problem with that because I love the early Gnostic understandings and groups and degrees, and I have learned so much from them. But with everything you hear me teach, I do not believe you have to go back and live as they do. In other words, we have more people going back trying to learn how these people live, whether they were vegetarians, whether they were had no sex, all this kind of stuff, instead of trying to glean from the Gnostic understanding that they had. For instance, so many people within like Judaism and Christianity, I'm not sure about Islam, but I know that when I was heavily into the Messianic influences, we always tried to go back to Acts 2, which the spirit of the thing is fantastic, but to live like the early believers would be confusing because there were so many different sects. There was not a unified understanding of how Christianity was followed in the early days. And then you have to bring in what we would call the Gnostic groups because many of them were the early quote unquote Christianities, but not in any way viewed as they would be today. And when Judaism would be the same way. When we have people who convert to Judaism who, they think that they're being adopted into a religion that goes back 3,600 years or whatever. When you start studying the Hebrew understanding, you see that what we have today is a modern interpretation of that. In other words, from Muhammad's on, we have and this is not a kick against anybody. Follow what you follow that brings you peace. So this is not a criticism or against. I'm just trying to point out that today's modern Judaism would not be what Moses would have understood, or Jacob, or any of these other guys would have understood. Seth, they wouldn't recognize it. And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying we have to evolve with the times. So when I say Gnosticism, I'm not saying the groups, although I pull strongly for these groups. I love the Cathars. I love the Sethians. Some of the Valentinian stuff and everything I really love. But I'm afraid more people are on the study of the groups than they are the gnosis that you need to learn. And for those that are so against gnosis, especially Christians, Paul himself was a Gnostic. And I know that brings shivers down your spine when I say that. But when you read Paul's books, Paul obviously understood a higher mythical Christ than Jesus the man upon the earth. In other words, he saw things in more of a mystical understanding, like love. He understood the power of love overcoming everything. Paul didn't mention anything historic about Jesus, his mother, his birth, where he was born. Really, there's very little about the physical Jesus in Paul's teaching. It's more about the mystical, the higher understandings, which is Gnosticism. And when you study Paul's things, you see that. Even within the Christianity, modern Christianity, there's a Gnostic form to it. Because, there's many people that, take the dogma and go with it, and that's what they live, and that's what you do. If that's the klipa you stay in, that's where you need to stay. But there's others, like when I was in the Pentecostal movement, charismatic movement, especially in the 90s, we were always seeking more understanding, always seeking knowledge, always seeking more of an external love that we could have for people, or a external understanding of the whole Trinity situation back in those days and everything. And the same would be true within Judaism and Kabbalah. Kabbalah and Gnosticism have a lot of common understandings. Terminologies are different, but I wonder when you look at groups like Chabad, whom I love, and you look at some of these, what am I trying to say, Nachman groups and all these groups that are very highly Kabbalistic. They're so full of spirit They're so full of joy. They're out there actually trying to help their fellow Jews and somewhat to the non-Jews with the Noahide laws. But they're actually doing something. When you see some of these other groups that are just like, no, us and us alone and things, and this is within the church too, they're dry. And I can just use my in-laws. When they were looking for conversion years ago, they were going to Chabad and loved it, and then they visited a normal Orthodox church, and they said it was good, but it was just so dry, the teachings, and I mean it was just so dry. It was just like doing it out of ritual instead of doing it out of emotion and doing it out of love. And I think that's a lot of things that within our understanding we're at. And I know I've been on search for a long time. And the thing is about 6 years, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 3, 4 years ago, probably 4. Yeah. We went down to Florida, and we Mandy was conservative, and I had blood, but it was on the male side and all this kind of stuff. And my Bella and Andy, we went down to Miami and halakhically got converted to Orthodox Judaism. And just like when my wife did it years ago in conservative, her life changed. Me and her met not long after that, and this journey began. And just like that situation, when we did, this journey began. And it's not the one that we planned, but it's the one that we're walking. And I just wanted to point out, when I talk about Gnosticism on this channel, I love upper understandings of things, the Kabbalah, Gnosticism, all sects of it. And here recently, I have joined the organization, the Unorthodox Church. Yeah, I've caught a lot of shit from you guys. But the thing is we just want to open up the understanding and knowledge of Gnosticism and what it really is and what it can do to you. Not caring one bit if you go back to the early Gnostics and study their way of life. I could care less. It's like the Essenes. I was in a period of where I was trying to learn how they lived and stuff. Why? We're so far removed from that we really don't know the facts of how they live. We have the enemy describing these groups and stuff. But how much truth would the enemy give these people credit? They wouldn't give them none. And they'd make them seem stupid with things. And I think that's a lot of things with the Gnostics too, what the church fathers did. And with the Ebionite and with the other groups. They made them extremists. And I'm sure there was extremists, but I'm sure there was also some normative people that were just trying to live this life the best they can. So that's what I want to bring you into, is the fact that from here out, we're going to be doing some great Scythian studies on their books, and we're going to do Mary Magdalene, and it's going to be really good. And on Sundays, we're going to continue our series that I had last week with Jay Azumi, and we're going to keep on talking about his form of Gnosticism also, which is a higher understanding of Judaism, Christianity, and Gnosticism. So I hope you have a good week and be looking for these things, because I'm really excited about the anyway, you'll get it when I get there. So thank you so much and have a great day. And thank you for visiting my channel and watching the video.